Think we are Gucci, I believe. Season. How do I name this? Season two, episode three. I guess season two, episode three. We'll just do S2, episode three. I don't know what the fuck people be looking for. I'm gonna do S2, episode three. I think that's a happy medium. Um, public. Let's put this in film and animation. Give us a thumbnail. Oh, I can't give it a thumbnail because, fuck, God, I gotta find a thumbnail real quick. Should I be naming this in the middle of the fucking podcast or the stream? I don't know. That's a good ass question. Let's let it rock from here, and then I'm going to just talk and try to find this shit real quick, I guess. I don't know. All right. I think we're good. I think. I think we're good. I hope we're good, because this has been a trial and a tribulation, and not a very fun time whatsoever. But I think we're good. I really think we're good at this point. All right, so I'm gonna pull my list back up here. I feel bad for anybody who's like, "Oh my god, why the fuck did he go live 55 different times?" It's like I don't know. You could ask me that question, I still wouldn't know what to tell you. All right, all I am is a boy with a microphone and 37 takeaways. And I'm doing it at this format here, which is more of a live, less concerned with editing and all that bullshit. I'm just gonna read these off to you. First off, before I even get to it, straight up, just out the gate, the the conclusion, like the last 10 minutes of this episode, I would put it in the pantheon of some of the greatest Game of Thrones moments we've ever gotten. I want that to be known. I don't give a fuck who feels like what about what the first half of Game of Thrones was, the first four seasons. I know some people hold that in such high regard. I get it. All right, I get it. I understand. I appreciate that, but what I just saw in the last 10 minutes was as good as anything I've seen. Period. So now we're gonna go from basically more or less start the front or start the front, start the back, from the beginning episode to the end. About the same time as the previous episode, about an hour and 18. So you take away the last 10 minutes, the real last 10 minutes, which are pretty much for the recap, and the first 5 minutes, which are a recap of that previous episode. So really about 50, about an hour and three to about 60 minutes, give or take. And it's about the same time as it was last week. So first, Aaron Bracken, I believe that's his name, Aaron. Aaron Bracken let his fucking nuts hang. I knew bro wasn't gonna last long. Anytime you got a guy that fucking pretty, uh, that's talking shit and very unconfident in the way he was talking shit. A lot of the ugly motherfuckers in this series put in work. The Mountain, the Hound. I think Damon looks like a fucking gargoyle sometimes. Not anything in offense to Matt Smith, the actor, but Damon, we're just keeping it within character here. The ugly motherfuckers put in work here. But a dude that fucking handsome, I knew he was food. So Aaron Bracken and the what I call in my head the backwoods, but I'm like that's ghetto, right? Like that's not. We'll call them Blackwoods. I don't know. I think it's Blackwoods. I think is it Blackwoods? I don't know. Them motherfuckers got off and just started this shit off ASAP. And my second tidbit was just fights historically start with little shit. I think the story everybody's heard at this point where World War I happened because Franz Ferdinand got pieced up. I believe that's what most people think that war started off with. It just takes one or two people to get it going. And wars happen with little shit. I mean, somewhere, everything has to start somewhere, right? And in the same sense, you know, peer to peer, Aemon's dragon eating Lucerys, or blood and cheese cutting the head off of Jaehaerys. Like peer to peer, person to person, one. It's not 1v1 per se, but little stuff like the individual fighting and scrabbling. That's what starts these moments, right? So keep that in mind. Um, but we're definitely at a point now where I actually wrote it down. They are called Blackwoods. Little stuff is going to build up, and we've seen it just with that. That's a microcosm. Those two trying to swing each other. You know, who's got the biggest dick? They have that moment, and then boom, thousands of people. I don't know if there's thousands, but dozens of people, probably hundreds of people got killed in that moment. Another beginning where we dance around absolute war declarations, as has been clearly indicated. Alicent and Rhaenyra want to do whatever is in their possible power to avoid just being like war is happening. Yeah, they've avoided that word the way like Apple avoids giving other niggas credit for shit they do. Uh, so, so just keep that in mind, man. There's no shot that they say war is ready until they're ready. Which I don't want to spoil the back half of this episode. Me streaming here, but I think we might be at that point now. One of my favorite moments in The Walking Dead is one where I believe it was Carl who says it, but it's basically when Carl and Rick are leaving their little tidy village after the governor comes through and wrecks shit and beats the fuck out of Rick. And then in that moment where they're escaping with not much dignity but alive, it's someone says we can never go back. That's what the end of this episode feels like. But also, if you just see the councils for both sides, Alicent and Rhaenyra, it's clear they don't want to go back. Rhaenys is so astute. We just need more Rhaenys, bro. Rhaenys is almost like almost like as intellectual, but as emotionally reasoned as the neutral party, like us, the viewer, would be like in a situation. Like the way that I think somebody who has as much information as we do, the viewer, I think that's how Rhaenys is almost depicted. Like, I'm not saying she's perfect, again, for the second straight episode. I don't think she's perfect. But this is the person that was skipped over for the crown. And, I mean, we just see, man, she's a way better leader than everybody else we've seen to this point that's touched the throne. Or even potentially touched the throne. I'm counting Daemon, Rhaenyra, you know, Alicent's kids. Like, Rhaenys would be the best leader. But again, got to keep in mind, she's doing this as an advisor. She's always been. She's never been in that position to make decisions. It's always easier to be backseat driving. So, but Rhaenys has so far been the just definitely the most likable of the people with high major power in this universe. All right, let's see. So they sickened me giving me coal this early in the episode. I have to like build my tolerance up every week to stomach fucking Cole. I don't even want to call him his first name anymore. Fuck his first name. Cole World. Every time I see this guy, I just have to like just expel all the hate I have for this person. And I like Cole World, but I fucking dislike Cole World. I feel like I would have liked Cole World in this universe. So I think maybe it's just a little bit like this nigga's really lucky. He's the luckiest fucking person you have ever seen in Game of Thrones. And even with all that luck, he still got to be a spiteful little fuck because of his pride and virtue and all these other bullshit that got instilled in him at some point. Fuck Cole World, dude. Fuck Cole World. So number 6, I took this at the time where we were just kind of getting into the meeting with Aegon and a small council. Where's Otto? I already want Otto back, man. I even know I was gonna miss Otto, but when I see Team Green look this impotent, this ready to just blow off and dump all their testosterone all over the place, I'm like, give me Otto Hightower back, man. Otto Hightower, I would say, is after seeing all these other guys that were just, sticking their fucking nose in anywhere they could stick their nose at and try to start some war. After seeing Otto's approach, I realized the man knew his shit. Now he's still Otto overplayed his hand quite a few times in these last couple seasons, but I think Otto had a more reasoned approach to all this. I also need more Lord Jasper. Snyder remarks, I love them. Give me guys in the council that can be a smart ass without like offending anybody. Just enough of an edge to them. Good comedic relief along with Dave Portnoy, the Lannister guy. So basically, this part, basically, I'm kind of expressing at the point where Cole kind of gets some lip from Alicent, and instead of trying to go back and forth to Alicent, obviously the mother of the king, he just straight up appeals to the king himself. Like he's calling rank on Alicent. He's saying at this point, I am sitting at this council with you. We are peers at this moment. As Otto and Alicent, they be peers. He said, I don't have to go through you anymore, Alicent. I don't need you. I have the king on my fucking dick right now. And I'm gonna fucking use that power. I respect it. And then Alicent, this moment towards the end of that scene where she's just like, oh, just like, that's it, just softly, oh. And I think that was her realizing, kind of like, I mean, it's expressed to her later on by Rhaenyra and other people that, like, the men in a situation, the men are starting to wag swords around. And Alicent just realized, like, there's, again, no peers of hers on that table. Nobody is thinking about the same way she is. Now, everybody's thinking about immediate war because it's a little bit more reasoned, but nobody has her insight. Nobody has her best interests on that table anymore. Obviously, Aegon, Aemon, they don't give a fuck about what Alicent wants. They want the opposite of what she wants. And the other kind of help, they're there. They have their own interests they're trying to kind of keep going. So I think Alicent realized that this is just Strange moved on past her. And we kind of get reinforcement of that towards the back of the episode. Myseria's illusionary ass accent is hot as hell. That accent isn't real, but it sounds good, and I like that. I think she's gonna sail on Rhaenyra, so I think she represents opportunity as a ladder, but you reflect that with the small folk. Rose from the first series, I think you see a lot of Rose in a lot of different characters since she kind of got fucked by Joffrey, not in a sexual way. Um, but Miss reminds me a lot of Rose, like in a more like grounded character sense, like the emotion, the ethos, and just a pure like we the small folk get crushed again and again, and you get one chance really to make something out of that if you're a small folk. And she climbed the ladder like Rose did, and she's in a position now where she has more power than basically any small folk in the entire realm outside of, I guess, our Dornish guy, Cold World, was at one point small. He was a small folk at one point in time. So, other than him, she's pretty much the biggest small folk person. And she's like, fuck it. This, I don't believe it because I don't believe like virtue exists in this universe. But what she's really saying is that she has the chance to pick a side that could potentially save small folk. And that's what she wants to do. Rhaenyra is that person. It's not Aegon. It's her. So that's what he's trying to do. Now, I don't think people do good things just to do good things in this universe. That's why I don't believe it. But they can at least understand like that on an empathetic sense, I guess. All right. Where are we at here? Small folk references. Yeah, small folk references. There's a ton of those in this episode. They started out using a lot of them in the previous episode, but we're getting a lot more of those, and I appreciate it. All small folk talk, I appreciate because what really, I think, failed Game of Thrones towards the back end, not the most, like, the biggest thing was that the showrunners were complete fucking idiots, but what didn't help was the simple fact that the POV became too big character centric. It became too Targaryen, Stark, Lannister, like everybody else stopped mattering, and the world stopped mattering. The world building was finished after like season 6, and maybe even earlier than that. Small folk perspectives do a lot to really make you feel like you're in a world, not just Red Keep or you know Dragonstone. Even though you may be in those locales quite often. There's another Joffrey. I was just stunned that I heard the word Joffrey again in my life. I never expected in Game of Thrones to hear the word Joffrey again. Excuse me. And to have heard Joffrey mentioned, like, I gasped a little bit, I'm not gonna lie to you. It's impressive how empty these non-King's Landing lands feel. So this aspect came from Harrenhal. Basically, when Daemon's coming through Harrenhal, he's like canvassing the place. There's like a couple guards that are there, obviously, like around the time that he first comes on with his dragon, but it's like dead empty. And I'm like, it's just crazy how so many of these lands just feel like there's nobody fucking there. Because I mean, it's the same thing with the one that Lucerys went to right before he got eaten by the fucking dragon. The same one that Aemon went to. I forgot what it's Baratheon one. Storm's End. Storm's End, yeah. So Storm's End felt the same way. It's like, is there 5 people here? But with Storm's End, he didn't really explore the place. He just kind of went to where he had to go to. This one, it's like, motherfucker went to like 8 different rooms. He saw like legit combined like maybe 7 people, bro. I'm like, ugh, okay. I know it's tough though. Like I know it's tough to like ask HBO, who's spending hundreds of millions on this TV show, to be like, yeah, can you just add some extra filler guys in this dank, infected, moldy ass castle? Can you just do that for me? Just so I can fucking have more people to look at. But yeah, I don't know. That's just how I feel. Even Dragonstone feels empty sometimes, but it made sense in Game of Thrones like that because you're trying to depict like Daenerys's like loneliness, like that was part of Daenerys's character. In this one, like Rhaenyra isn't lonely of people; she's just lonely of like peers and really like family. Towards the middle of this episode, but she's not like barren, in terms of people in Dragonstone. Even Damon couldn't believe how easy this shit was. Like he was just stunned. Like, what the fuck? Yo, can somebody give me a battle or something? Like he like clubbed one dude's head and knocked him out. But other than that, he's just like he goes into the main keep and just like looking at the remaining strong leader. He's like, okay. And then the strong leader just like bends the knee immediately. He's like, okay, well, fuck. Jeez, I didn't know it was gonna be this easy. Shit. Damon wants to squab with somebody, man. You don't come with that type of armor, big ass dragon. You don't do all that if you're like not trying to just squab with somebody. All right, Lair's Clubfoot. I thought that was just one of the best nicknames I've heard in this series. Some of the dialogue makes you always think like, all right, this is supposed to be like medieval, but at the same time, it's like, like the word Clubfoot exists back in medieval times. I don't think it did. I'll be honest with you. Damon is really trying to pull rank on Nyra. So this came from his conversation with Strong, and Strong was like, "Oh, my prince," because Damon really is supposed to be, in the most honest and innocent sense, he's supposed to be just a vessel for Rhaenyra and her wishes. But he basically corrects the Strong guy, and he's like, "No, it's your grace. Like I'm your leader. Like I'm not just Prince. I'm not just a guy. I'm not just a piece of her leadership. Assuming it'll get you fucking killed, bitch. Call me your grace, your majesty, whatever. Like, I'm that nigga. I'm the king. And Damon clearly, like, believes himself to be, at the very least, equal to Rhaenyra in position, if not higher than Rhaenyra. That was the whole spat was about, from last episode. So there's one recurring theme. The wording of this isn't the greatest, but basically, something that gets repeated multiple times in this episode and to this point in this season is that truth really becomes a myth with enough time, and myth becomes truth with enough time. Very philosophical stuff. And from my understanding of this book, the way this book's actually structured is that a lot of the tales we see in this book are just recaps from maesters and other people who have, positions of power where they're being asked to recite tales. So I think you get to a point where you actually start to ask yourself in this book, which I have the book. The book I have it right. I have the book right here. But I guess you ask yourself at a certain point, like what is it? Like what's real and what's just somebody kind of mythologizing things. I'll even read it out to you. The background here. Entertainment Weekly Review. The thrill of Fire and Blood is the thrill of old Martin's fantasy work. Familiar myths debunked, the whole trope table flipped. There's an addictive quality to the prose that's outright gossipy. Fire and Blood is Martin unbound, imperfect by nature, a great pile of story, and I wouldn't put it down. So, okay, so I'll just read the rest of it. This is kind of the actual like synopsis of the book from the back of the book. Set centuries before the events of A Game of Thrones, Fire and Blood is the first volume of GRM's definitive two-part history of the Targaryens in Westeros. It begins with the legendary Aegon the Conqueror, creator of the Iron Throne, and goes on to recount the generations of Targaryens who fought to hold that iconic seat, all the way up to the Civil War that nearly tore the dynasty apart. With this essential chronicle, as related by a leader or learned maester of the Citadel, readers will gain a fresh appreciation of the dynamic, often bloody and always fascinating history of Westeros. So this is simply a recitation from a guy who knew a lot of shit, basically. So keep that in mind. And that just becomes something that's said fairly often by the characters themselves in this TV show. Okay. Gawain and Cole are definitely going to crash out at some point. As we kind of see at the beginning of this, Gawain kind of looks at Cole as somebody who's beneath him and does not enjoy that his dad's position, or his dad, uncle position, was taken by this fucker. So at the same time, Cole feels like, I'm that dude. Like I should have to like share my position as commander. Like I just got this position right now, unimpeded commander, Lord Commander, King, King's hand. Like I got all the power in the world, and there's still somebody trying to pull rank on me now. I don't like that shit. So definitely a conflict there that kind of becomes higher as we progress in this episode. And then I said it's Cole. It's Cole World, Christian Cole. Is Cole World going to jerk off to the handkerchief? So basically, Allison's kind of like just dismissive of this nigga in their final scene before he departs. She's like, yeah, okay, here's the cursory, like, do well, motherfucking, hope you don't get killed and burned alive by some fucking dragon. Like, all right, get the fuck out of my face. So she walks away. And then Cole, who always has to have the fucking last word, WORD. Cole asks her to turn back around and says, Your Grace, can I please have your blessings to accompany me while I'm going out to go potentially get eaten by a fucking dragon? And my thought is this nigga has a lot of balls because he's doing this shit right by the watching eye of her cousin. He doesn't give a shit. So he's just like, yeah, yeah, it is what it is at the end of the day. Like, it's what it is. So she's like reluctantly like, all right, man, you got so many balls on you, and I've been around them balls quite often. Pause for me personally, but that's analysis perspective. Here you go. Here's the handkerchief, bro. Knock yourself off, on. You're gonna be knocking yourself around definitely that shit. I think he's gonna be jerking off that fucking handkerchief. I don't know what's gonna happen, but that's my assumption so far to this point. So from there, I actually started finding the thumbnail real quick while I was talking. Let me see here. Was a cheese visual necessary? So yeah, when they're leaving out, man, this is some fucked shit, bro. When they're leaving out, the last thing we see of King's Landing, it's not like Allison looking them off. It's not anybody else. It's fucking cheese being hung and having his body just torn apart by a crow or a raven or whatever. Like, that is wicked. Like, Cheese does some fucked up shit, right? I'm not like, I'm not feeling bad for Cheese. This is part, honestly, my reaction to this is kind of why it was a problem. They softballed the depiction of these guys as fucking evil as they did. Because I still think like Cheese and Blood to a certain extent, but mainly Cheese, were just like aloof fucking morons that like kind of, like, unless they got lucky, like just happened to be in a position to get into King's Landing. That's what I mean by lucky. Not like they were like blessed to like, kill a little kid or anything like that, but they just happened to be in the right position, right? Just two goofballs. And the book, as I understood from reading a little excerpt where they talked to Helena, like made these guys like fucking evil doers, like very bad people. And I just kind of wish that the TV show could have maybe went on to that a little bit more. Now you can watch my previous episode, kind of talking about the last episode. Like I don't want people to do the whole book comparison thing. Like I don't. It defeats the joy of the TV show. And you're like, oh my god, it's not like the book. It's different than the book. The book. Like it's just like it's annoying, right? Like nobody likes that. But that's one thing I wish they could have did a little bit differently. Maybe maybe that's just me. Um, so the blacks versus the greens. Their difference is with the blacks, led by Rhaenyra, obviously. The people who are bloodthirsty, blood hungry, they want to fucking rip everybody apart on the opposite side. Those people don't win the discussion. Although they obviously number number Rhaenyra and Rhaenys, I guess, to a certain extent, they don't win the discussion. Rhaenyra doesn't have to put her foot down. Rhaenys backs her up. But she doesn't have a lot of people on her side, obviously. She doesn't have Damon, who's not really on her side. He just kind of like is a mumbling fuck at the actual table. And then behind the scenes, he's just doing his own angle. And then she doesn't have Corliss, who pretty much does not really want to be there. So, doesn't really have much support at the table. But when she's out there, they don't win. When Alicent is trying to preach peace, she gets muted. That goes here. Rhaenyra has as much of a voice as Alicent at times, but she's supposed to be the queen. It is kind of interesting that the two people who are basically peers of each other, they sit there and they both say a lot of things at the table that is not listened to by the other people at the table. But Alicent is just a mother, while Rhaenyra is actual queen and is supposed to be heard. So, kind of a problem. Corliss got fucked on his heir when you think about it. So yeah, I mean, Corliss is just mad options to be his heir at one point in the series. He had his slightly different son, we'll say that, a little bit different. He had his brother, who was a capable leader, as I understand. Then they had even more kids, grandkids to pick from, and they really wanted his grandkids, and he didn't really like them very much. He had Damon's grandkids, or the kids Damon provided to him. But I think he's down. I think all of Damon's grandkids are alive. It's just that, like, the mother, who also could have been an heir, was also killed. So, Corliss has, like, this whole breakdown towards the back end of season 1 where like, he's pissed that all of his kids would die because of supporting the fucking Targaryens. But really, when you think about it, man, he's lost a lot. Like, Corliss has lost a lot. So I understand why he doesn't even want to discuss the whole heir thing when Rhaenys brings it up. Like, I get it. You know, I totally get it. So, as they leave out, you have Rhaena, the other Targaryen kids, like the ones outside of Jacaerys and Lucerys, RIP, Rhaenyra's other ones, and all the dragons and the dragon eggs, like they dip out to go talk to I'm sorry, outside noises, I can't control them. Lady Aaron. And basically, I think it's a twofold thing where Rhaenyra has no other expendable small people to ask to go out there. She doesn't want to ask Jacaerys to go again because of what just happened, and Rhaena or Bela has a dragon, so she has to like go support the forces, especially with Daemon out. So that just leaves Rhaena basically, and Rhaena's kind of pissed because she's being just treated like a little ass like kid. Like she's just like, yeah, you're dispensable, and you also serve no value to my army. So like, go handle my light work. But it's also important because she needs somebody to watch the fucking dragon eggs. So Rhaena theoretically could, you know, have some control over the eggs with her being part, old Valerian or high Valerian, whatever it is. So she has to be the one to go. Basically, she has to be the one to do it. She has to be the one to sit there and um, watch the little kids. She has to be the person that can express the emotions of Rhaenyra and the wishes of Rhaenyra to Lady Aaron, her cousin. So he has to be a peacekeeper in a sense, and a mother, as Rhaenyra puts it. And she doesn't want to do any of that shit, which, whatever. But she has to go where it's supposed to be peaceful. I don't think it's going to be peaceful at all. You have 4 dragon eggs, plus whichever dragons may also tell along. You have 3 Targaryen kids, and you have 1 Valerian. And then you're going to Lady Aaron, who is in a very important position. Them kids are getting smoked. I'm sorry to tell you, but like somebody, I don't know if it's gonna be Aemon, I don't know who's gonna be. Somebody's gonna find about this whole little party they got going on there, and they're gonna get fucking smoked. If this is anything like Game of Thrones, they're getting fucking smoked. I'll tell you that right now. Let's see here. So from there, we are on 24th takeaway. We got 13 more takeaways to go. I'm going for 31 minutes. This is fucking a lot. You really realize how young Allison had these kids when you see how old her daughter and she is, but side by side. Like you can at least tell like Helena's actress is younger than Olivia Cook. Like you can at least see that, right? Like, they visually one looks older than the other. I'm right there with it. However, it doesn't look much younger or much older, I guess I should say. Like Allison looks like she's like the sister of Helena, not the mother of Helena. And I would say the same thing about her and Eamon. I think her and Eamon like the same age, but Eamon's like that motherfucker looks like he's been through everything. And after seeing him in this episode, I think he might have been through everything. Um, she's not a good mother. She's not a good like caring mother. Like emotion, not Allison's thing. I get the feeling that Helena is pretty intelligent, but just a goober. And there's some theories that I saw that Helena is capable of a lot. I'm not gonna go into any of that stuff any deeper, but Helena is clearly like a very learned person. It's just that like how Helena like expresses her intelligence isn't always the most easy to understand for other people. Her and Brando, they'd have a good conversation, I feel like. So I have the closed captions on when I watch these episodes, just because if I catch something in the captions that I missed hearing it, that helps. Red Ned Waters should have knocked Laris's fucking head off. I just like Laris is out here talking to my brother like he's just a nobody. Just like, yeah, get in my face. Let me go talk to the king. And if I was Red Ned, I would have knocked that motherfucker's head off. I would have beat that nigga with his own club foot, man. Shout out my nigga Red Ned Waters, man. Tails take a life of their own like weeds. I thought it was a very astute just quote from our guy Laris. Like I don't want to say our guy, like fuck Laris, obviously. Like I'm not exactly writing for Laris here, but just keep in mind like Laris is a very smart human being, and the philosophy aspect of what he just said there was very deep, and also falls in line with other things that we've seen and heard about tales and mythologizing and truths not really being truths because of what time does to them. So Laris is Littlefinger. Otto was more like a Varys. I don't think Varys is accurate. I asked that question on KTT, and someone said Otto was more like Tywin, which I think is a lot more astute than the comparison I put together. I like that one a lot better. Otto is like Tywin. Laris is Littlefinger. Laris is definitely Littlefinger, no doubt. and he used reverse psychology very well to keep our king alive. I think the way he does it is the way he like interacts with the king is a lot better than how Otto did it. Otto did like this blanket approach that he thought he could use because like this is his family, these are his younger his kids. But I think Lairs actually sat there and tailor made his pitch to the king. He did it the right way, and our guy did not. Our guy Otto did not do it whatsoever. Otto was blinded by his own intelligence, but his hubris more than anything. So the guy name's Ulf. There's a guy named Ulf on here. That's going to be Ulf. Ulf. I'm going to say that again one more time. His name's Ulf. I'm sorry, man. All right, Ulf. So Ulf, I'm just gonna summarize all this up. Ulf is supposed to be also the son of Balon, which makes him siblings with Daemon and Viserys, R.I.P. He'd be a Targaryen. He'd be a half brother, as he put it. And he's also a fucking capper because none of that shit's believable. Now, that shit might be true. I'm sure he just fucking sit here and give some random ass small folk NPC as much time as Ulf has gotten so far. But I don't think Ulf is a fucking Targaryen at all. So I'm just gonna have to do what I got to do and just say I call bullshit on that. That's not the case, but he might be. I do know one thing. His friend, Big Boy, hears your other nephew as Aegon walks in just as he's telling that story. That shit was funny as hell. That might have been the best part of the whole episode. Here's your other nephew. That was like that was like a Seinfeld type comedy, Larry David shit. Eamon the Freak Bull got caught by his brother, and dude had that face of like post nut, post fap embarrassment, bro. That was tough, man. That's like I couldn't see ever like really like. I just want to let anybody know like I'm fucking like whores. Like I couldn't let that be known, cause that shame, man. That's got to be different, right? Like for somebody to catch you. And the thing is, like Aegon and Aemon kind of like knew this chick already. Like they had experience with her, which I don't remember season 1, but apparently that's probably when they were like first fucking with the brothel. Like, I'm assuming they both got introduced to her back then. At this point, like she's basically a mother to Aemon. Aemon's like full, I forget what you call it, like fetal position with her, and Aemon drunk as fuck or Aegon drunk as fuck. Like just comes in there, it's just like, yeah, this fucking pussy ass nigga is still fucking the same chick, and this chick, that's how you know that she's the best, because he's like a fucking little kid now suckling on her and shit. And just taking the piss. And Aegon's like damn near Aemond. Aemon is damn near like sniffling, like having to like get his dignity back together. And then we got it from like last episode where like he's clearly not really recovered from the emotional abuse that he felt was delivered by the other Targaryen kids his age. And I thought first thing he's gonna snap and like just break Aegon in half, but he kept it together and just said like, yeah, she's just a whore. Like, I would never put that much emotion to a whore. I also put as a side note, bro can't have shit. He cannot have shit. So we get to the point where like, this isn't one of my takeaways, but we have the moment where a Cole and a Hightower, Gawain are like kind of talking shit to each other, like like Gawain's like, oh, that's my brother or my nephew, the little king, and he's not going to tell me what to do. And Cole's like, well, the king would do this. I'm like, mm. So they're just talking open, and then coincidentally, Rhaenyra, who just happened to be kind of going towards King's Landing, sees them, and she's like, "Oh, that looks like Cole." Which really she didn't say that. What really happened was that she saw somebody who appeared to be a knight, somebody who had armor that was bright, and she just happened to, chase that motherfucker, and found out when she swooped down that was Cole. It wasn't that she just saw it was Cole from the sky. That's stupid, right? But she engaged, as she put it, and then saw it was Cole. So that's how she handled it. Um, and I just put the actual takeaway is that if Bela had charbroiled Cole, she would have been my Bela, because I would have put a ring on Bela if she could just burn that nigga and got him out the fucking paint. I don't even care about the victory or loss part of it. Just get Cole out of here, please. Please, I beg you, get Cole the fuck out of here, please. Anyway, if Rhaenyra's told Nyra to light the beam, I think she'd do it. To light the beam is a reference to the Sacramento Kings. But why I put this down is because at this point, Rhaenyra is really scrambling in these small council scenes to find any kind of like comfort, any kind of love, any kind of like sentiment that's similar to how she's thinking, which is peace. And Rhaenys is basically in these meetings kind of like playing the back. Like she's not trying to be commandeering. She's trying to like, I think my interpretation, she's trying to have Rhaenyra be her own person. But she also like doesn't have the same like strong feelings one way or the other. I mean, she's always trying to say like she wants peace, you know, stuff like that. But she also has to let Rhaenyra be Rhaenyra. So she doesn't like outwardly speak up. But Rhaenyra consistently like looks at her and thinks like kind of what she would do in situations. Like she's the really the last like guiding beacon for Rhaenyra in these meetings. So whatever she would say, I think Rhaenyra would follow suit. You know, I just watched this video. This is a Cam Newton's Shannon Sharp interview, where it's just a piece of it. But basically, Shannon's like giving these stories of why he doesn't sleep over in women's houses anymore, and I thought Damon had his own moment like that, where he's just like, I shouldn't close my fucking eyes, because like he's like not really sleeping, but just kind of like pacing, just thinking and shit. And then his door, which he had blocked with a sword, just starts getting like banged and hit, and like someone's like outside. And so he like goes to the door. He's like, "What the fuck is happening?" And he pulls his sword out, and then the banging stops, and he leaves. And this is why you can't look at social media, you can't look at the internet, you can't look at any of this shit when you're watching this stuff. Because I looked at KTT the almost the exact same time we got to the point where Damon leaves the room and he goes to go check out what the sound of the noise is. That got spoiled. Millie fucking Alcott. Millie fucking Alcott back out there. I was fucking like, oh my god. Millie. I was like, Millie, you back. Fucking Millie. I loved Millie and I loved Emily Carey. Their representations of Rhaenyra and Allison, respectively. To see her again was beautiful. And I didn't check to see if that was going to be confirmed or anything like that before the season started. Like, I didn't check to see if we're going to ever see those two again. I kind of assumed we would for a flashback, which is just not a flashback, but kind of, this is a very tasteful way to use very beloved characters, obviously, or beloved actors, obviously. So I just fluttered when I got to see Millie Alcock one more time. Probably the last time we see her. We might see Emily Carey again. I think it'd be weird if they did, Millie, but not. I think it'd be weird, but it's their show. Do whatever you want to do, I guess. But I wouldn't be surprised if we see Emily Carey at some point. And that's because they gave Damon like a Tony Soprano dream sequence. If you ever watched The Sopranos, the dream sequences for Tony typically were foretelling very major developments, moments with other characters, or just moments with Tony's kind of character progression. So I think it matters when you have, the character. What was her name? I don't think we caught her name, but the strong chick who like kind of stared at Damon, kind of looked bemoaning and just a little bit eerie. Well, she like looked at Damon and she was like, "You're gonna fucking die here, motherfucker." I think that shit matters. Like I think that's foretelling in a certain sense. All right, so we got two more takeaways left. We got two more left, and these are. All right, so the first one is just ain't no way they're gonna send Rhaenyra to King's Landing. I'm like, yo, what the fuck are we doing, bro? What are we doing? We're sending the Queen right after all this shit that just happened, and we're gonna send the Queen to basically the hottest hot spot in the entire goddamn realm. That's what we're gonna do, and that's what they did. They did it anyway. I don't even get my takeaway at this point, man. Masterful. Like I said, I kind of opened up with them to close it with that masterful fucking moment. Just getting. If this is the last conversation, I doubt it will, but if this is the last conversation that we get between those two beacons of morality, I guess, our queens, man, Rhaenyra and Alicent. That was an incredible fucking just scene all around, man. Every way. You saw the dialogue, man. I'm not even gonna get into the dialogue specifically, but like it was just amazing from start to finish. The score, Alicent's reaction when she first sees her, like she's like legit like about to like fucking have a heart attack. Like, is this a ghost? Like, who the fuck? And then it starts with like the knife being, in Alicent's side, and then Rhaenyra's like, um, yeah, I just started this the best way. Like, I could have maybe this a little bit differently. I mean, it's like that's Rhaenyra as it gets. Like Rhaenyra's like you could see the kid Rhaenyra doing that. Like I just put a knife by somebody without thinking about the kind of the long term effects of this. Like if I kill her, like what's gonna happen to the rest of the realm? What's gonna happen? Probably nothing to good. Uh, so it's just like, and then the cherry at the top of the entire series so far. It's just them discussing a song of ice and fire, and I think both parties like having these like this is what makes you want to jump into the TV show and like just strangle everybody. Like, just please say everything in the most blunt and well explained ways possible, and you get to avoid these moments. Because at first, Rhaenyra like says her piece. Oh no, I got it flipped. Alicent says her piece, and she mentions Aegon, and then Rhaenyra's like, "Oh my god, well yeah, I was wrong. I was wrong. My bad." But then she goes into it, and she's like, "Princess promised," and then Rhaenyra's like, Princess promise. Is that what he had? Is that what he said? And then Allison's like, yeah, Princess promise. He's like, he told you about a song of ice and fire. He's like, what the fuck is that? You just make that shit up. And then like, you make that shit up. What the fuck is a song of ice and fire? So whenever breaks down a song of ice and fire, and then Allison, these two are amazing actresses, or I guess actors. I don't know what Emma Darcy. Like I don't know what she identifies as. I guess I shouldn't say she, but I don't. Anyway, Emma Darcy and Olivia Cook, amazing fucking actresses. At that point, it's just like the Conqueror, Aegon the Conqueror, not just Aegon. No, it's Aegon the Conqueror, motherfucker. It's just Aegon the Conqueror. And then like they both at a different point because at this point Rhaenyra is still like having hope on her side. Like you realize, Allison, right? Like you realize, like this is just a foible. Like you just misinterpreted his words. Like you just got him wrong. It was a mistake. It's honestly a mistake. It happens all the time. It's just a little mistake. And Allison's just like, it's too late. We can never go back. Like that's just how she hit it with the we can never go back. Like just what I said from Bro from Walking Dead. We can never go back. And that's just what happens. Allison's just like, you better get yourself out of here safely. Nice talking to you. Enjoy your day. And she just walks away. And then Rhaenyra, her last bit of hope, like the last young Rhaenyra moment we kind of get, really, I feel like. The last of that naivete, the innocence. I think it just goes, like you can see in her face, it just goes away. She's like going from tearing up and, all of her hope being dashed and being like, fuck it. It is what it is at this point. It's game time. Dude, that shit was in fucking sensational, man. One of the best moments. One of the best moments like ever that we've ever got in this series, which is that facial change that she has from being like, this was my last hope. Like I was praying I could just go to Allison and just be like, Allison, please, man, you gotta understand how this is gonna go. And then she's like, fuck it. It is what it is. That shit was incredible. And that's gonna be it for me. 50 minutes of kind of talking about it. I've had some streaming problems. I'm gonna assume that I did good here because it seemed like Nothing dropped. I've had 0 drop frames per OBS, consistent bit rate. So I may be doing more streams instead. If anybody stopped by, I appreciate just kind of coming through, stopping by. Definitely appreciate that. Just incredible shit, man. Really incredible episode. Where we're going from here, I know it's only gonna be a 6 episode season instead of the 10 episodes we got last season, but I think they can get a lot done with this. And I think they already ordered season 3, so we at least got that. I would imagine it's gonna be a 4th season at some point, but incredible shit. I enjoyed the fuck out of this episode as I did last episode, and we just been killing it so far. So let's just keep on doing our thing. Fuck D&D for not giving us the type of writing to close out Game of Thrones. Could have been unprecedented run. 8 straight seasons of just fucking perfection. But well, more than eight. But just perfection. We were robbed of that, but I feel like we're back. We're back to